0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Lining up, Adrian double, and here it comes. Over the kick, connects.
Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
Man, can we stop putting the Denver Broncos on primetime, please? Because, my goodness, obviously, they had a much better showing, and it was probably a much better game than all the previous times we've seen them on primetime. But my goodness, can they just not get it done? The lights are too bright for that team. You know, it's like, I've seen people say the Broncos are a quarterback away from being successful, and it's like, you were supposed to be a quarterback away once you got Russell Wilson. How are you a quarterback away now that you have him? Man, I can't believe, I seriously just can't believe what's been going on down there. And, man, I get it, you can't predict a lot at the beginning of the season. You can't predict what teams are going to be good and what teams are going to be bad. But my goodness, have the primetime schedule has been pretty terrible. And overall, the league as a whole this year has just been so confusing. Because, like, you think you know who are going to be the contenders. And then next thing you know, everything's just flipped around. The Packers are losing to the Jets. The Giants are beating the Ravens. The Steelers are beating the Bucks. The Giants and Vikings have the same record as the Bills. Certain teams look good one week, then terrible the next. The 49ers, for example, couldn't get past the Falcons, but can beat the Rams convincingly. The Jaguars looked promising, and yet lost to the Colts, who look to finally be gaining momentum. Which, I do have to mention this, though. I know Jonathan Taylor is hurt, but making old man Matt Ryan throw 58 times is absolutely insane. And Justin Herbert did the same on primetime yesterday for the Monday night game. He threw like 53 times or something like that. I can't believe what these guys are doing, man. It's absolutely crazy. The Cardinals lost to the Seahawks. And Kyler Murray is now 2-49 during double XP weekends on Call of Duty. Should have looked that up before I started him in fantasy. And, of course, the two teams playing to their expectations played each other. The Bills and the Chiefs was one of the most anticipated rematches of the season. Absolutely crazy game from both teams. Mahomes and Allen had another legendary duel. Allen is looking like your MVP with Diggs right next to him, potentially looking like an offensive player of the year candidate. You know, just an absolutely crazy duel. All the plays in that game that were made were absolutely insane. And it's crazy that Tony Romo predicted the final score of that game before it happened. That was pretty crazy. But we'll get on to the main event of the night, and it truly was, because it was the Sunday night game. The 4-1 Dallas Cowboys heading into Philadelphia to take on the undefeated 5-0 Philadelphia Eagles. There was a lot going into this game. Unlike a lot of the fans from both sides of the fan base, I'm going to keep it pretty civil here. And I'm just going to say, you know, there was a lot of expectations from both sides. Eagles wanting to continue to be 6-0, looking for their offense and defense to have a good showing, especially after the Cardinals game. You want a better showing after that. Definitely don't want as close of a game as that one was. And from Dallas's side, despite all that they're trying to tell you now after the fact that it's happened, their expectations pretty much were, hey, even though he's a backup, Cooper Rush has been undefeated with us, 4-0. You know, if we're looking for not only the defense to kind of carry him like the previous times, but for him to just basically play to the standard he was playing before and do just enough to get past this Eagles, you know, this Eagles team and all that. And it's, you know, that was kind of their expectation, you know, and as much as they want to lie after the fact and say it wasn't, that's really been their expectation, was, you know, oh, Cooper Rush could come in and definitely can propel us to a win if we do enough of this and this, you know. And it was like big expectations from both sides, you know. And I think if I remember back to my season schedule video, I think my prediction was that we were going to lose this one because I was just like, I'm used to it, you know, Dallas and Philly split games, and usually it's always split in the opposite ways where Philly wins in Dallas and Dallas wins in Philly. So that was kind of my expectation. But obviously that was at the start of the year when I didn't have the expectation of us being undefeated heading into this game. And another big thing is, can we continue to be undefeated heading into our bye week, which is right after this week, you know? And I agree with C4, the other big Eagles YouTuber that I watch. I agree with what he said in his video when he was talking about the Eagles-Cowboys game, where he said, you know, he kind of looks at this bye week as like terrible timing because we have such momentum going. But after seeing a lot of the stuff that happened in this game, it probably can't come at a better time to hopefully get a lot of these guys healed up and rested. Even though you would want to wish for something like that maybe in the later half if more people end up injured, you know. But we'll get into that, I guess, later in the video as we talk about the game. But so, starting off the game, first quarter, no points on the board from either team. Was a pretty even matchup, you know. Both teams just kind of kept getting 3 and outs, couldn't really get much going, you know. You look at the play-by-play, and it was like nothing much was really happening in that first quarter, you know. It's like it would be like some short runs, but then it's not enough to convert. So here comes the punt, and then it's a punt until we finally get to the second quarter, and that's when all the action really starts coming through. Because first drive of the second quarter is 15 plays for 80 yards. So obviously, you know, a lot. Well, let's put it this way: the Eagles' bread and butter this season, for the most part, has been that second quarter, and you know, scoring in that second quarter, and so they come in. And, you know, pretty much what the fan base has come to expect. They score, you know. They're the first to score. Who ended up catching this touchdown pass? I believe it was A.J. Brown. Yes, it was. It was that crazy play from A.J. Brown to get the touchdown. Right? I'm pretty sure, yeah. Oh, no. This one was a Miles Sanders rush. Yes. Sorry. This one was the Miles Sanders rush that was, you know... It was just, you know, another goal line situation, run the ball, as Philly's been sort of notorious for doing on or in this game. Yeah. Oh, we got there by the end of the first quarter, started off the second quarter with that touchdown, yeah. Then, you know, Dallas finally gets a shot. They're like, all right, let's do this. Let's, what's it called? My gosh, why am I? You know, let's do this. Let's show them what we got. You know, try and match their touchdown with our touchdown. And Cooper Rush throws a deep interception straight in the middle of the field to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, which was tipped by James Bradbury, who was having a pretty crazy game as well this game. Both men, pretty impressive games. By the end of it, it was really a toss-up between who I wanted to be the thumbnail, but when you get 2 interceptions, you obviously got to give it to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, but it could have gone to either of those 2 men. And the Eagles capitalized off that, you know. They continued running the ball as well as they did. And this is where we got that crazy play from A.J. Brown where, you know, Jalen Hurts basically gave him like a short little shovel pass, and A.J. Brown just went and broke all the tackles he could to get a touchdown. And then right after that, get a field goal, another interception. This time it was Darius Slay, I believe, right? Yeah, Darius Slay gets the interception. We get another field goal. Dallas gets a field goal. End of the quarter, 20-3. Dominant game from Philly so far. Then you get to the third quarter where, you know, it wasn't necessarily the best, if I do say so myself. Like, it was kind of a iffy situation, you know, where there was a lot of things that played into it. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson injured his hand, so he was out for the most part. And James Bradbury was doing pretty well still, but there was like a couple of moments where you could tell he was getting they were kind of like in a sense like, how would you put it, like they were just going to him a lot more often, and sometimes it was making those plays on him, but for the most part he was, doing really well, and a lot of people noticed that. But as I was explaining to my dad, they're used to having a safety like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson holding it downfield, and so like a lot of those plays were the fact that they started going towards that area because Gardner got injured, and then at the end of the half, Lane Johnson goes down, and that's when you get these plays where the third quarter the Eagles really struggled, and it was really worrying me because I was like, oh gosh, here we go again with second half Eagles. This almost like it's literally like a split between this team's identity of first half, let's be dominant, second half, let's just completely take our foot off the gas, and the car just completely just what would you even say? The car just completely breaks down. There we go, sorry. Yeah, the car just completely breaks down. It's like they ended up punting the ball. Dallas goes down to get a touchdown. They punt the ball again. Dallas gets another touchdown, and you're just like, okay, guys, what are you doing? What are you doing here? How are you letting them come back into this game? But then Chauncey Gardner-Johnson comes back. They make a substitute because, oh gosh, who was on the outside? Jack Driscoll, I think, was on the outside, and he was getting abused by that Dallas defensive line. But they make a couple adjustments, and it works out. You look at the play-by-play of this touchdown that they scored right after. So to kind of give people the visual of where I'm at right now, it was 20-17. We're in the fourth quarter. The beginning, Eagles get the ball, and they just went to what their bread and butter was, which was run the ball. 3 straight plays running with Miles Sanders, Jalen Hurts running, and then what's it called? Yeah, that was just all they were doing, running with Miles Sanders, running with Kane Gainwell, Jalen Hurts making a run, maybe a pass here or there, and then of course they get to the goal line and Devontae Smith gets that beautiful catch, and they failed the 2-point conversion, but like my dad and I, we don't blame them for going for it. Probably would have gone with a quarterback sneak, maybe. I mean, I know it was at like the 2 or I think it was either at the 2 or the 1, and it's weird that they didn't go for a quarterback sneak like they usually do. Or as I was telling my dad, they know they're gonna commit to the middle, so why not do like a run to the outside? That confuses them. Like make it look like you're giving it to the fullback who goes to try and dive. Everyone goes to the middle. Give it to the running back to try his best to run it out to the outside. But still, they got the touchdown, and then kind of just to, how would you put it? Kind of just to illustrate, again, it's not me trying to be a toxic Philly fan, trying to downplay Dallas's efforts in this game. Although, I don't, or, I take great pride and joy out of making fun of Dallas fans. This was kind of the proving point that it was just that third quarter that was really a struggle, because they get this touchdown, and then literally into Dallas's drive, it looks like, oh yeah, look, they're rushing with Zeke Elliott, they're doing this and this, and then boom, Cooper Rush throws another interception to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who got back in the game. And my goodness, go back and watch that play, because my goodness, was that man just zooming down the field to get there in time to make that interception with a messed up hand. Quite impressive, if I do say so myself. But the Eagles don't make much of it, they try and do something, to kill the game clock out, but they end up punting. Dallas looks like they're making plays to maybe come back with their stop. They go for a field goal because they're like, okay, well, let's go for a field goal here, try and get the ball back and score a touchdown, except, boom, they missed the field goal. Eagles run out the rest of the game. Done. Pretty good victory for the Eagles here. 26-7 is the final score. You wish they did a bit more scoring in that second half. They only scored 6 after getting 20 in the first. But like a lot of people have been saying, it's not really to make excuses, but, we would have easily seen more sort of aggressive play calling and more sort of aggressive play that we saw like in the first if Lane Johnson was still there to protect Hurts, because that he was the one that was really keeping that pocket clean for Hurts, and afterwards it was just a real tough time, but real great game to watch. Getting into the scoring wise, Jalen Hurts give him like a B. You know, he did pretty well. 15 of 25, 155 yards, 2 touchdowns. The 2 touchdowns were relatively easy, I guess you could say, and were more so on the play of his receivers and him. So I think a good B is a good grade for him, you know, and what he did. The rushing attack, got to give him I mean, realistically, all around the board, I'd probably give B's to everything, rushing, receiving, the defense even, you know. Because, you know, they went out and did their job, basically. You know, Miles Sanders, 18 carries for 71 yards. Jalen Hurts, 9 for 27. Oh, Miles Sanders also had a touchdown. Kenneth Gainwell, 5 for 25. Boston Scott, 6 for 16. You know, they all basically went out there and did what they did. The receivers did what they could with what they were given, which was A.J. Brown, 5 of 67 for a touchdown. Devontae Smith, 5 of 44 for a touchdown. Dallas Goedert, 2 catches, 22 yards, you know. The 3 basically did what they could with the opportunities they were given, which wasn't much, you know. It was only 15 times they went for pass plays 25 times, but, you know, in total, it wasn't much compared to rushing, obviously, which is what this team is known for. And then I mentioned the defense, you know, I'd give them a B just because, in my eyes, you just can't look at, you know, the interceptions alone. Like, you can't look at the box score stats, you know, alone. They did pretty well, you know, getting those interceptions. They did pretty well for the most part holding it down. Like, the lead receiver was CeeDee Lamb, but he only had 5 catches for 68 yards. They held Cooper Rush to 181 yards and made him throw 3 interceptions. But there's also another big zero in that box score, and that's the sack department. Jalen Hurts got sacked 4 times. This Eagles defense couldn't get nothing on Cooper Rush. Now, were they pressuring him? Yes. I believe it was Brandon Graham. It was either Brandon Graham or Javon Hargrave. One of the two was right in Cooper Rush's face when he threw that interception to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. So you obviously look at the pressure and like, okay, yeah, they were getting pressure at times, but like 0 sacks really hurts them. There wasn't really much tackle for losses in the game. It wasn't necessarily the best from that defense, you know. They did pretty well in the first half. Third quarter, they really let up pretty badly. Fourth quarter and all that, they held up well enough to, you know, not let them get any momentum back in the game. But it was still a solid performance from them, you know. You're never going to fault the defense that gets 3 picks on the days and keeps the game out of reach for the opposing team, you know. But real good from them. And again, we head into the bye week. Lane Johnson was obviously injured. Jordan Mailata was still kind of recovering from an injury. Avonte Maddox is recovering from an injury. Though it looks fine now, you know, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's hand was injured at least in that game at some point. And so it's like, as much as you don't want the bye week to be now and you want to keep up this momentum, it probably is best now. Or, you know, I would have preferred it maybe in like 2 weeks or 3 weeks time, you know, like after, I think it's the Texans game on primetime Thursday night. But, you know, you only want to look to it then just because in case players do get injured even more, you have that so that they rest up for the final portion of the season. But at the same time, it's fine now because, like I mentioned, all those players who potentially have injuries, you want them to heal up now and get ready for this big final push, you know, because the last thing you want is for the bye week to be, like I said, 3 weeks later, and then you lose those 3 games because of injuries and all that and lose the sort of momentum you had. But heading into this bye week, looking pretty positive, you know, heal up on all the injuries that they got, do the most you can to improve the play calling, especially get more aggressive. You know, I know it's really hard to get aggressive when you're missing a key piece on the offensive line, but that's just kind of the thing I'm looking for the most with this team. I don't mind them going for I don't mind them keeping to what works best for them, you know, but you got to sort of grow and develop your game, you know, to become unpredictable to a lot of these teams. Even if what you're doing is working, you know, you still want to be able to just throw them off their game a couple of times, which is why, you know, I'm looking for more out of Jalen Hurts. I am still, you know, fine with the way he's been playing. You know, I'm glad to see the improvements he's made, but, like, you know, maybe it's an unrealistic expectation, but a lot of people are just waiting for that game where, he kind of proves himself in the passing game, I guess you could say. Like, he had a couple games like that early this season, but like when people are putting him in certain categories, and obviously, you know, that's on other people, but like when people are putting him in other categories, you expect to see at least a couple of games where he's on that level as his adversaries, I believe is the word. You know, like if you're putting him in there in the conversation with guys like Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and a bunch more of the top quarterbacks, you do want to see a game from him where he throws for like 300 yards and 3 touchdowns or something like that. You know, I can double check real quickly, but I don't think he's had a game like that. I think the closest game he had probably was against the Commanders. Check the box score right now for that Commanders game. 211 yards. But oh wait, no, that's Carson Wentz. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, look, 340 yards, 3 touchdowns. There we go. See, we're looking for more games like that. You know, like the game against the Commanders, where just go out there and show us that arm of yours. You know, and you know, could have easily done it in a game like this, but again, the Lane Johnson thing is really big. You know, but so looking for more games like the Commanders one at least, or the Vikings one, where it's just kind of show that versatility where you can do both the passing and the rushing, you know. But looking forward to that bye week. Since there's no Eagles game then, you will see me on here kind of discussing the rest of the league, not only the games that happened that week, but doing a real like fun segment of just who should be hitting that panic button at this point in the season. And then after that, we come out against the Steelers, who it's really a toss-up still, you know. Kenny Pickett starting. They just beat the Bucks with that momentum. I don't know who they're playing next week, but if it's someone like easy again, they could carry that momentum to facing us, you know, especially if they get back to 500, you know. But it's going to be real interesting to see coming out that bye week. I mean, on paper, it looks pretty easy when you consider the Steelers are the toss-up, but then you got the Texans, Commanders, and the Colts after that, you know. So it's going to be real interesting to see what happens with this Eagles team, you know. But until next time, thank you all for joining for another episode of Game Day. And as always, many things in this life may seem impossible, but remember, if you fight for your dreams will fight for you.